Chosen ones, the universe is laughing at the irony unfolding around you right now. While you're out here living your life, minding your own business, building your empire in silence, there's a whole network of people who can't seem to shut up about you. They're obsessed, they're spiraling, they're creating entire group chats dedicated to analyzing why you don't give a damn anymore. Here's what's actually happening in the spiritual realm while they gossip. Your indifference has become their fixation. The less you care, the more they talk. The quieter you get, the louder their speculation becomes. You've earned yourself a reputation for being completely unbothered, and it's driving them absolutely insane because they can't figure out how you did it. They're used to people who need validation, who crave attention, who break under pressure. But you just keep moving like their opinions are background noise that doesn't even register anymore. Today you're going to understand the real reason they can't stop talking about someone who couldn't care less. You're going to see how your silence became the most powerful statement you've ever made, and why your peace is the biggest threat to their chaos. Think of yourself as a storm that learned to be still. They're all out here creating thunder and lightning, desperate to be noticed, while you've mastered the art of being the calm that makes their noise look foolish. You didn't wake up one morning and decide to become untouchable. That's not how transformation works for people like you. It happened in layers, each one teaching you something crucial about energy and where yours was really going. You started paying attention to how you felt after spending time with different people, and the pattern became undeniable. Some left you energized and inspired. Others left you feeling like someone had drained your battery to charge theirs. The awakening wasn't dramatic. No lightning bolt from the sky or divine voice in your head. It was quieter than that, more persistent. You just kept noticing the imbalance until ignoring it became impossible. These people who are now so fascinated by your absence never noticed how much they took from you when you were present. They consumed your attention like it was an all-you-can-eat buffet, never considering that you might need to be fed too. So you made a decision that terrified and liberated you in equal measure. You chose yourself. Not in some selfish, vengeful way that they're probably describing it now. You chose yourself, the way you'd choose water after days in the desert, or air after being held underwater. It was survival dressed up as self-care, and it saved your life in ways they'll never comprehend. The withdrawal process showed you who was real and who was playing roles in your life. When you stopped being available for their drama at 3 in the morning, some people vanished completely. That should have hurt more than it did, but honestly, it mostly felt like relief. You weren't losing friends, you were losing energy vampires who had convinced you they were friends, and there's a massive difference between those two things. Here's what nobody tells you about becoming unbothered. It's not about developing thick skin or learning not to care about anything. You care deeply about plenty of things. You just stopped wasting that care on people and situations that were never going to change, never going to reciprocate, never going to meet you at the level you were showing up for them. Your capacity to care didn't shrink. It got redirected toward things actually worthy of it, starting with your own growth and peace. The reputation you've built for walking away without looking back isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You finally understand that some bridges are supposed to burn, that some chapters end abruptly, because trying to stretch them out only dilutes the story you're meant to write next. When people cross your boundaries now, they encounter something they're not used to, consequences. Not revenge or retaliation, just the simple, clean consequence of no longer having access to you. You've become the embodiment of fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice. Not happening because I already removed you from my life. This energy you carry now has a name in circles that understand spiritual warfare and energetic dynamics. You've activated your Ice King or Ice Queen frequency, and it's terrifying to people who are used to warmth they never had to earn. They're used to unconditional access, unlimited chances, and endless patience from you. Now they're hitting walls they swear weren't there before, and they're right. Those walls weren't there before. You built them deliberately, brick by brick, using every lesson they taught you about what happens when you leave yourself unprotected. Let's talk about what they're really saying when they talk about you. On the surface, they're probably spreading stories, creating narratives, maybe even painting you as cold or changed or not who you used to be. They might say you've become arrogant or distant or too good for your old crew. Let them talk. What they're actually communicating without realizing it is that your absence has left a void in their lives they don't know how to fill. They're advertising their own emptiness while trying to make it sound like criticism of your fullness. The speculation about you has become their favorite pastime. They wonder if you're seeing someone new, if success has gone to your head, if you're secretly struggling but too proud to reach out. These theories they construct say everything about them and nothing about you. They can't fathom that someone might simply outgrow them without there being some dramatic story attached to it. The truth is too simple for them to accept. You evolved and they stayed the same. You healed and they're still wounded. You moved forward and they're still replaying old patterns, expecting different results. Your silence has become the mirror they never wanted to look into. When you were engaged in their chaos, they could avoid examining their own lives because you were always there to focus on instead. Now that you've removed yourself from their stage, they're forced to sit with themselves, and they hate what they're discovering. That's why they can't stop bringing you up. Talking about you is easier than dealing with themselves, and as long as they're analyzing your moves, they don't have to make any of their own. Some of them are genuinely confused. These are the ones who never meant harm but never meant much good either. They took your presence for granted the way people take breathing for granted, assuming you'd always be there providing whatever they needed without them having to nurture the connection. Now they're reaching out with, "I miss you" messages that really mean, "I miss what you used to do for me." They want the old you back because the old you was convenient, comfortable and controllable. The new you requires effort they're not willing to invest and boundaries they're not willing to respect. On runt of this message resonates deeply. Help this reach more chosen ones who are ready to receive it. Then there are the ones who are angry. Your growth feels like judgment to them, even though you've never said a word about their choices. Just by choosing differently for yourself, you're holding up a mirror to their stagnation, and they resent you for it. These are the people spreading the most creative stories, trying to dim your light, because seeing you shine makes them confront how long they've been sitting in darkness. They need you to fail, to come crawling back, to prove that your way doesn't work so they can justify never trying it themselves. But here's what's actually happening in the unseen realms while they gossip and theorize. You're winning, not in some petty, "look how much better I'm doing than them" way. You're winning in the ways that actually matter. Your energy is rebuilding itself, stronger and cleaner than before. Your intuition is sharpening because it's not constantly drowned out by other people's opinions and emergencies. Your dreams are getting bigger because you've cleared out the voices that were always telling you to be realistic, to stay small, to not get your hopes up. The version of you that's emerging from this period of deliberate isolation is going to shock everyone, yourself included. You're discovering talents and interests you never had time to explore when you were too busy being everything to everyone. You're healing wounds you didn't even know you had because you were too focused on other people's pain to acknowledge your own. You're building a vision for your life that's actually yours, not some compromise between what you want and what others need from you. Something profound happened when you started redirecting your focus inward. You stopped trying to control outcomes and started transforming the foundation. All those years you spent trying to change people, fix situations, and manipulate circumstances into alignment with your vision were exhausting because you were working against the natural order of things. Control is an illusion that drains you. Transformation is a truth that empowers you. You can't control how people respond to you, but you can absolutely control who you become in response to them. This shift from external manipulation to internal manifestation changed everything. You realized that trying to bend the world to your will was like trying to steer a river with your bare hands, pointless and exhausting. Instead, you became the kind of person who naturally attracts what they desire. You worked on your frequency, your vibration, your inner world, until it became a magnet for the exact experiences and connections you actually want. This is real power, not the illusion of it. The people who are busy talking about you have no idea about the depth of work you've been doing. They see the surface changes and create shallow explanations. They don't understand that you've been in a cocoon, completely restructuring yourself at the cellular level. You've been shedding old programming and installing new operating systems. You've been doing shadow work that most people are too scared to even acknowledge exists. While they were busy maintaining their masks and managing their images, you were in the trenches of your own psyche, facing demons they wouldn't survive encountering. This glow-up they're all noticing isn't about a new haircut or hitting the gym, though maybe those are part of it. What they're really sensing is the energy of someone who finally stopped abandoning themselves to accommodate others. That energy is intoxicating and intimidating in equal measure. It draws people in while simultaneously making it clear that entry requirements have changed significantly. You've become selective in ways you never were before, and that selectivity is creating the kind of magnetic pull that desperation never could. Your physical presence now carries weight because your spiritual presence has become solid. There's a fullness to you that wasn't there before. You're not seeking completion from anyone because you've found it within yourself. That self-sufficiency is attractive in ways that neediness never could be. People sense that you're not looking for someone to complete you, or save you, or fix you. You're whole already, and if someone wants access to your world, they need to be whole too. Not perfect, but working on themselves with the same intensity you've brought to your own growth. People are attracted to you now for different reasons than before. You're not the safe option or the convenient choice or the person who'll definitely say yes. You're the mystery, the challenge, the one who got away before they even got close. Some are genuinely intrigued by who you've become and want to know you on these new terms. Others are just collectors who want to add you to their roster of conquests to prove they could break through your defenses. Your job now is discerning which is which, and you're getting better at that every day. The boundaries you've established aren't just walls keeping people out. They're filters determining who gets access to which parts of you and under what conditions. This is where your power really lives now. You're no longer an open book that anyone can read whenever they want. You've become a private collection that requires trust, respect, and reciprocity to access. Most people never make it past the front cover anymore, and you're completely fine with that. Your reputation for being unbothered is really a reputation for being unmanipulatable. They can't guilt-trip you back into old patterns because you've done the work to heal the wounds that made you vulnerable to guilt in the first place. They can't love-bomb you into lowering your guard because you've learned to distinguish between genuine affection and strategic affection. They can't create drama that pulls you back into their orbit because you've discovered that their chaos was never your responsibility to fix. They keep checking up on you, and it's obvious even when they try to be subtle about it. Mutual friends suddenly asking casual questions about how you're doing. Old acquaintances liking posts from months ago at 2 in the morning. Ex-partners viewing your stories within seconds of you posting them. They've turned stalking into an art form, convincing themselves they're just casually curious when really they're obsessed with tracking your movements. Each check-in is a probe, a thinly veiled attempt to find an opening back into your world. Some of them have gotten creative with their approaches. They create fake drama, hoping it'll lure you out of your fortress. They manufacture crises that used to work like a charm when you were still playing the role of savior in their lives. Someone's suddenly in trouble, someone needs advice only you can give, someone's going through exactly the kind of situation where you used to drop everything and come running, but you see through it now. These emergencies always seem to happen right when you're glowing the hardest, right when your success becomes impossible to ignore. The timing is never coincidental. They spin tales of imagined slights and perceived offenses, testing to see if you still care enough to defend yourself or explain your actions. In the past, you would have taken the bait immediately, rushing to clear your name and make sure no one thought badly of you. Now you understand that your reputation among people who never truly knew you is worthless. Let them believe whatever helps them sleep at night. Your silence in the face of their accusations speaks louder than any defense ever could. It says you've transcended the need for their understanding or approval. This transformation has given you something more valuable than popularity or approval. It's given you sovereignty over your own life. You answer to yourself first now, and that reordering of priorities has changed everything. The opinions that used to keep you up at night barely register anymore. The approval you used to chase has been replaced by self-validation that can't be taken away by external circumstances. The fear of being alone that made you tolerate mistreatment has dissolved in the face of discovering how peaceful and productive solitude can actually be. During this period of recalibration, you made a decision that some people found shocking. You stepped back from physical and emotional entanglements entirely. Whether you call it celibacy or just radical self-focus, the effect was the same. You stopped giving pieces of yourself away through intimate connections that weren't serving your highest good. This wasn't about punishment or playing games. It was about reclaiming energy you'd been scattering across people who never valued it properly. The clarity that came from this withdrawal was immediate and profound. Without the distraction of romantic or sexual entanglements, you could see patterns you'd been repeating for years. You could recognize how much of your identity had been wrapped up in being desired, being chosen, being someone's person. Stepping away from all of that revealed who you actually are underneath the roles you'd been playing. Turns out you're far more interesting and powerful than the character you'd been performing. This time alone taught you something crucial about energy exchange. Every intimate connection, whether physical or emotional, creates cords between people. Those cords carry energy back and forth, and if the exchange isn't balanced, someone's getting drained. You'd been on the draining end of those connections for too long, giving more than you received, depleting yourself to fill others up. By cutting those cords and refusing to create new ones with people who weren't worthy, you gave your energy system time to restore itself fully. The people from your past who are trying to reconnect now can sense this restored energy. They're drawn to it like moths to flame because you're radiating at a frequency you never achieved when you were scattered across multiple unworthy connections. Some of them are reaching out with genuine intentions, finally ready to meet you at the level you've been operating at. Most of them are just energy vampires who've depleted their other sources and are hoping you'll be naive enough to let them feed again. Your discernment has become so sharp that you can tell the difference within minutes now. Now let me put you onto something real, Destiny Engine. I built this because I was done watching chosen ones get dragged through betrayal, isolation and attacks while their enemies strutted around unchecked. I want to help you accelerate the speed of your divine justice and step fully into your purpose. And the beauty of it, you don't even have to lift a finger. Destiny Engine takes their downfall and flips it into your rise. This isn't another meditation app. It's declassified consciousness technology, the same mind programming tools your enemies once used to install fear, competition and scarcity, re-engineered to restore your sovereignty and align you with the cooperative, upgraded operating framework. It generates personalized sequences mapped to your divine purpose. The hardest thing you'll do is put on headphones, press play and watch your enemies keep digging their own grave. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and turn everything they did to break you into fuel for your rise. Link in the description. Let's address something important here. Some people listening to this might think you've become cold or heartless, that you've swung too far in the other direction. But anyone who's actually walked this path knows that's not what happened. You haven't lost your capacity for warmth and connection. You've just stopped giving those things to people who proved they didn't value them. There's a huge difference between being closed off to everyone and being selective about who earns access to your inner world. The chosen ones who resonate with this message understand something fundamental about energy and spiritual warfare. Your peace threatens certain people because it exposes the chaos they've normalized in their own lives. Your growth threatens them because it proves that change is possible, which means they can no longer hide behind "this is just how I am" excuses. Your boundaries threaten them because they've built their entire relational style around people who don't have any. You're operating on a different frequency now, and not everyone can tune into it. That's not elitism or arrogance, it's just reality. You've done work on yourself that raised your vibration, and some people are still operating at frequencies you've outgrown. They can either rise to meet you or stay where they are, but you're done lowering yourself to maintain connections that require you to be less than who you've become. What you're experiencing right now is a recognition of your own high intellect and spiritual gifts. You've always been different, operating at levels of understanding that most people never reach. Your mind works in ways that puzzle others because you see patterns and connections they miss entirely. You're not just smart in the conventional sense. You possess a kind of wisdom that comes from both natural ability and earned experience. You've walked through fires that would have destroyed lesser souls, and each trial sharpened your perception and deepened your insight. This intellectual and spiritual elevation isn't something you brag about or wear like a badge. It's simply who you are, and people sense it even when they can't articulate it. They feel the depth when they interact with you, and it either draws them in or intimidates them into keeping their distance. You've stopped dumbing yourself down to make others comfortable. You've stopped hiding your light to avoid making anyone feel dim by comparison. This authenticity in expressing your full intelligence and spiritual awareness is part of what makes you magnetic now. Your spiritual gifts have been activating in ways they couldn't when you were surrounded by people who drained you. Intuition that was always there but got overridden by other voices is now crystal clear. You know things before they happen. You feel energy shifts before situations change. You read people with an accuracy that sometimes unnerves them because they're not used to being truly seen. These gifts are part of your birthright as a chosen one, and stepping away from toxic connections allowed them to fully emerge. The gossip about you will continue. People will keep trying to figure you out, to find the angle, to discover the secret. Let them search. The truth is simultaneously simpler and more profound than any explanation they'll come up with. You just decided you mattered, and you started living like someone who believes that everything else flowed from that one decision. Your absence from their lives has become more powerful than your presence ever was. When you were there, they could take you for granted. Now that you're gone, they're forced to confront what they lost and why they lost it. Some will learn from that, most won't. Either way, it's not your concern anymore. You're not responsible for their growth or their realization or their regret. You're only responsible for your own continued evolution, and that's exactly where your focus belongs. The success you're building in this period of intentional distance is going to be undeniable, not just career success, though that's part of it. We're talking about success in the deeper sense, becoming the person you were always meant to be, the person you could never become while carrying everyone else's baggage. You're discovering your actual personality, separate from the performance you put on to keep others comfortable. You're finding your real voice instead of the one you modulated to avoid conflict. This journey has taught you that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is disappoint people. Sometimes growth looks selfish to people who benefited from your stagnation. Sometimes the right path forward means leaving people behind, and that's okay. You're not responsible for dragging anyone along on your journey who doesn't want to walk it themselves. The clarity you're gaining during this time is going to serve you for the rest of your life. You're learning to trust your intuition about people instead of overriding it to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. You're learning that consistency matters more than intensity, that someone's actions over time reveal more than their words in the moment. You're learning that you don't have to have a dramatic reason to distance yourself from someone. This doesn't feel good anymore is reason enough. Trump and about worth and reciprocity. For years you were the giver in every relationship, the one who showed up, who remembered birthdays, who checked in, who made effort look effortless. You poured yourself out like water, never expecting the well to run dry. But it did. You hit a point where there was nothing left to give, because you'd spent years giving to people who only knew how to take. They consumed your generosity like it was their birthright, never once thinking to refill what they were draining. Now you only connect with people who bring the same energy you offer. You've become ruthless about protecting your circle, allowing in only those who understand that relationships are about balance. These rare souls don't just take your light, they bring their own. They don't drain your energy, they amplify it. When they enter your space, you feel fuller rather than depleted. They give as naturally as they receive, and they respect your boundaries because they have their own. These are the connections worth nurturing, the ones built on mutual respect and equal exchange. Recognizing your worth ignited something inside you that can't be extinguished. You've fallen in love with yourself in a way that has nothing to do with arrogance and everything to do with survival. This self-love is fierce and protective. It refuses to let you settle for treatment that doesn't match your value. It won't allow you to shrink to make others comfortable. It demands that you honor yourself first, not in a selfish way, but in a self-preserving way that ensures you're never again depleted to nothing by people who saw you as a resource rather than a person. The people who once fed off your kindness like parasites now find themselves on the outside of walls they can't scale. You've prioritized yourself, wrapped your spirit in layers of self-respect that only the worthy can penetrate. You're no longer available to those who take without giving back. You've learned that your presence is a privilege, not a given, and those who want access to your world need to prove they deserve it through consistent action, not empty words. Your energy right now is pure creation mode. While they're stuck in speculation and gossip, you're building something real. While they're trying to understand your moves, you're making new ones they haven't even noticed yet. While they're looking at who you used to be, you're becoming someone they can't even imagine yet. That's the power of genuine detachment from their opinions and expectations. The version of you that's emerging isn't interested in proving anything to anyone. You're not showing off or trying to make anyone jealous or attempting to demonstrate that you're doing fine without them. You actually are fine without them, better than fine, and that's not a performance, it's your new baseline. This is what happens when you stop performing your life for an audience and start actually living it for yourself. Some bridges you burned weren't bridges at all. They were flimsy ropes that were going to snap eventually anyway. You just had the wisdom to cut them before they could take you down with them when they broke. The people who are meant to be in your life will meet you where you are now, not where you used to be. They'll respect these boundaries you've established because they have their own. They'll value your energy because they understand how precious and finite it is. You're being watched, not just by people from your past, but by the universe itself. What you're doing right now, this reclaiming of your power and peace, is being noted in realms beyond the physical. You're being prepared for something bigger than you can see yet, and this period of withdrawal and strengthening is part of that preparation. The success coming your way requires the version of you that knows how to say no, that understands your worth, that refuses to settle or shrink or sacrifice your well-being for anyone else's comfort. The reputation you have for being unbothered is actually a reputation for being unbreakable. They tried to break you with neglect and mistreatment, and instead you broke the patterns that kept you trapped. They expected you to come crawling back, and instead you built a life so fulfilling that their absence became a relief rather than a loss. They thought they were teaching you a lesson by pulling away, and instead you learned the most important lesson of all: you're better off alone than surrounded by people who drain you. Walking away from unhealthy attachments has become your superpower. You don't hesitate anymore. You don't give second chances to people who showed you exactly who they were the first time. Every person who ever left you feeling hollow taught you to recognize the warning signs earlier, to detect the subtle ways people try to siphon your strength before they get too deep into your world. You've become a master at reading energy signatures, at sensing when someone's approaching you with genuine intentions versus when they're just looking for another source to drain. You sever ties swiftly now, like a surgeon removing diseased tissue before it spreads. There's no drama, no long explanations, no attempts to make them understand why you're done. You just go ghost, disappearing from their reality as completely as if you never existed. They're left confused, scrambling for explanations, trying to figure out what they did wrong. The truth is they did everything wrong, but you're done being their teacher. Let life teach them the lessons you're no longer willing to deliver. Each person you've cut off has made space for something better to enter. You've learned that holding on to dead connections out of loyalty or history or fear of being alone only blocks the universe from sending you what you actually deserve. Those toxic ties were like anchors keeping you submerged when you were meant to fly. Cutting them loose wasn't cold or cruel. It was necessary for your survival and your ascension. It's the beginning of the real one. The one where you're the author instead of just a character in someone else's drama. The people talking about you right now are going to have a lot more to say as you continue rising, and eventually their voices will fade to background noise you don't even notice anymore. You'll be too busy living, creating, achieving, and becoming to care what anyone from your old life thinks about your new one. The divine has your back in ways you can't even perceive yet. Every closed door, every ended relationship, every person who walked away or was walked away from was making space for what's really meant for you. Your angels have been working overtime, clearing out the dead weight and protecting you from connections that would have derailed your destiny. That reputation for being unbothered isn't just a personality trait, it's spiritual armor that's been built through battles you didn't even know you were fighting. You're going to look back on this period one day and recognize it as the turning point. The moment when you stopped living for everyone else and started living for yourself. The moment when their opinions lost their power over you. The moment when you realize that being alone is better than being in bad company, that peace is more valuable than popularity, that your energy is too precious to waste on people who don't appreciate it. Keep walking your path, keep protecting your peace, keep building your empire in the silence while they waste their energy talking. Their words can't touch you anymore because you've finally learned the secret they're terrified of. You don't need them. You never did. You just thought you did, and the moment you realized you were wrong about that was the moment you became truly free. That's why they can't stop talking about you. They're trying to understand what you figured out, trying to diminish what they secretly wish they had the courage to claim for themselves. Let them talk. You've got work to do, a destiny to fulfill, and a life to live that's finally, beautifully, completely yours.